Older men often believe attraction is about money, status, or saying the right impressive lines, but that belief quietly works against them. Real attraction, especially from younger women, is far more psychological and far more subtle. When a younger woman feels genuinely impressed, she doesn't chase, she doesn't flatter, and she doesn't make it obvious. Instead, she asks one specific kind of question that reveals curiosity, emotional safety, and a desire to understand the man behind the presence. This question is not random, and it only appears when a man's energy, boundaries, and self-respect are aligned. Miss this moment and the connection fades. Recognize it and everything shifts. When a younger woman is truly impressed by an older man, she doesn't ask surface-level questions to fill silence. She asks questions that explore his inner world, his thinking, and his emotional stability. This question is often disguised as curiosity, but psychologically it is a test. She may ask about how you handle stress, what you enjoy when you are alone, what you've learned from past relationships, or what your life looks like outside of work. This is not small talk. It's her way of checking whether your confidence is real or just performative. Younger women today are highly sensitive to emotional inconsistency, especially with older men, because they subconsciously expect maturity, not just experience. What many older men misunderstand is that attraction at this stage isn't built by trying harder, explaining more, or proving worth. It's built by being grounded enough to answer without oversharing and without defensiveness. When she asks this question, she's watching your tone, your comfort with silence, and whether you feel the need to impress her back. A man who is centered answers calmly, without rushing, and without trying to sound superior. This signals emotional regulation, which research consistently shows is one of the strongest predictors of long-term attraction, especially across age gaps. This question also reveals whether a man has integrated his past or is still reacting to it. Younger women are instinctively cautious of unresolved emotional baggage. If your answer carries bitterness, resentment, or the need to justify yourself, the attraction quietly drops. But when your response reflects self-awareness and peace with your experiences, it creates psychological safety. Safety is what allows admiration to turn into desire. Studies in relationship psychology show that women associate calm emotional expression with leadership and reliability, traits that naturally elevate an older man's presence. Another layer of this question is autonomy. She wants to see if your life is full without her. When you speak about your routines, passions, or values without framing them around validation, it communicates independence. Independence is deeply attractive because it removes pressure. Younger women feel more drawn to men who don't need them to feel complete. This is why the question often sounds personal, but is actually structural. She is checking the foundation of your identity. The mistake many older men make is turning this moment into a lecture or a performance. They talk too long, explain too much, or try to impress with achievements. But the real impact comes from emotional economy, saying less but meaning more. Confidence here is shown by comfort, not dominance. When your answer is relaxed, measured, and honest, it creates a contrast that stands out in a world full of anxious communication. This question also tests boundaries. A grounded man knows what to share and what to keep private. He doesn't overexpose his wounds, nor does he hide behind humor. He shares selectively, which signals self-respect. Younger women are drawn to men who value themselves enough not to unload their entire story for instant intimacy. That restraint communicates experience without arrogance. Ultimately, this moment is not about the words you choose, but the state you speak from. When a younger woman asks this question, she is already leaning in emotionally. Your job is not to pull her closer, but to remain steady where you are. That steadiness is what allows attraction to deepen naturally, because she feels she is discovering you. Not being convinced, not being sold, not being pressured, but slowly understanding the man who stands firmly in his own life, with clarity, patience, and emotional weight that doesn't need to announce itself, but is felt in every pause, every choice of words, and every moment you remain unshaken by the need to impress. Younger women are not drawn to men who chase their approval, even when those men are older and accomplished. What truly pulls their attention is calm authority, the kind that doesn't need constant validation or reassurance. Calm authority is not loud, controlling, or dominant in an obvious way. It is quiet, consistent, and rooted in self-trust. When an older man carries this energy, younger women feel it immediately because it contrasts sharply with the anxious, performative behavior they often experience from men closer to their age. Approval-seeking energy creates pressure even when it's subtle. It shows up when a man over-explains his decisions, checks her reactions too often, or adjusts his personality to match what he thinks she wants. Younger women are highly perceptive to these shifts. Psychologically, approval-seeking signals uncertainty, and uncertainty breaks attraction. Calm authority, on the other hand, signals internal alignment. It communicates that the man is comfortable with who he is, regardless of how he is perceived in the moment. This energy is reflected in how a man listens. A man with calm authority listens without interrupting, without rushing to fix, and without trying to impress with his own stories. He allows space in the conversation. Silence doesn't make him uncomfortable. This is powerful because silence suggests confidence. Research on interpersonal dynamics shows that people associate comfort with silence as a sign of higher status and emotional control. Younger women interpret this not intellectually, but emotionally as strength. Another key aspect is decision-making. Younger women respond strongly to men who make decisions naturally, without forcing control or asking for permission. This doesn't mean being rigid or dismissive of her input. It means being decisive while remaining respectful. When a man says, "This is what I'm doing," rather than, "Is this okay with you?" it creates a sense of direction. Direction reduces anxiety, and reduced anxiety increases attraction. Approval-seeking increases uncertainty, which triggers emotional withdrawal. Calm authority is also visible in how a man handles disagreement. Approval-seeking men try to smooth over conflict at any cost, often abandoning their own perspective to keep things pleasant. This may feel nice initially, but it quickly erodes respect. A man who can disagree calmly without raising his voice or becoming defensive demonstrates emotional strength. Younger women often test this unconsciously. They want to see if a man can hold his ground without turning cold or aggressive, when he can trust forms naturally. This dynamic becomes even more important with age differences because younger women expect emotional leadership from older men, not leadership in the sense of control, but in emotional stability. When an older man reacts emotionally like a younger man seeking reassurance or validation, it creates dissonance. Calm authority resolves that dissonance. It aligns age with behavior, which strengthens attraction. The way a man carries his body also communicates this energy. Slower movements, relaxed posture, and steady eye contact all reinforce calm authority. These signals tell the nervous system that the environment is safe. Attraction at a biological level is deeply tied to nervous system regulation. A regulated man regulates the space around him, and younger women feel that without needing to analyze it. Perhaps most importantly, calm authority means being outcome independent. The man is present and engaged, but not attached to how the interaction turns out. He enjoys the moment without trying to extract something from it. This removes pressure entirely. Younger women feel free rather than evaluated. Freedom is seductive because it allows curiosity to grow organically. When approval is removed from the equation, authenticity emerges. The man speaks honestly, acts consistently, and doesn't perform for attraction. Ironically, this is what creates the strongest pull. Younger women don't feel chased, impressed, or overwhelmed. They feel invited into a stable emotional space, one that feels rare, grounded, and distinctly masculine. Because it is rooted in self-respect rather than the need to be chosen. Impressing a younger woman has far less to do with what you say in front of her, and far more to do with how you live when she is not around. Younger women are acutely sensitive to lifestyle alignment. They observe patterns, not promises. When an older man's life is structured, purposeful, and self-directed, it creates a silent form of attraction that doesn't rely on performance. This is because consistency signals reliability, and reliability forms the foundation of trust long before romance becomes explicit. Many men attempt to impress through storytelling, highlighting achievements, experiences, or knowledge. While these things may capture attention briefly, they do not sustain attraction. What sustains it is coherence. A man whose daily habits, values, and decisions align with his words communicates integrity. Integrity is not loudly announced, it is felt over time. Younger women often assess this subconsciously by noticing how you manage your time, how you speak about your responsibilities, and whether your actions reflect self-discipline. Purpose is another powerful attractor. Purpose does not mean being constantly busy or chasing external success. It means having direction. When a man knows why he does what he does, it shows in his energy. He moves with intention rather than urgency. Younger women interpret this as emotional maturity. Psychological studies on attraction indicate that individuals are drawn to those who exhibit goal clarity because it reduces uncertainty and increases perceived competence. Impressing her also means how you treat your body and mind. Physical presence matters not in terms of perfection, but in self-care. A man who respects his health, maintains routines, and understands his limits sends a message of longevity and stability. Younger women think long-term even when they don't articulate it. They instinctively ask themselves whether this man's life feels sustainable. A chaotic lifestyle, even paired with charm, raises silent red flags. Social environment plays a role as well. How you interact with others, especially those who cannot offer you anything, reveals your character. Younger women pay attention to how you speak to waitstaff, colleagues, or family. These interactions are not ignored, they become data points. Respectful, calm, and grounded behavior reinforces the impression that your confidence is authentic and not situational. Another overlooked factor is emotional management. Impressing her is deeply connected to how you handle frustration, disappointment, and stress. A man who complains excessively, blames others, or dramatizes obstacles appears unstable. In contrast, a man who acknowledges challenges without being consumed by them demonstrates resilience. Resilience is highly attractive because it signals that the man can navigate life without collapsing emotionally. Financial stability is often misunderstood. It is not about wealth or spending power. It is about responsibility and restraint. Younger women are impressed by men who manage resources wisely, who don't flaunt money or use it as leverage. This reflects self-control, which is a cornerstone of respect. Flashiness may attract attention, but restraint builds admiration. Perhaps the most compelling element is self-sufficiency. A man who enjoys his own life, who has fulfillment independent of romantic interest, naturally becomes more attractive. Younger women feel this as freedom. They don't feel like they are being recruited to fill a void. Instead, they feel like they are being invited into an already complete world. This reduces pressure and allows attraction to grow organically. Impressing her, then, is not a moment, it is a lifestyle. It is the quiet confidence that comes from alignment between who you are and how you live. When your life speaks for you, your words carry more weight. You don't need to convince, persuade, or impress deliberately. She notices the calm structure, the emotional steadiness, the absence of desperation, and the presence of meaning. And those signals communicate far more powerfully than any carefully chosen line or rehearsed display of confidence. When a man stops trying to control how an interaction unfolds, something paradoxical happens. Respect begins to grow naturally. Younger women are especially sensitive to control disguised as interest. Control shows up in subtle ways, like steering conversations toward outcomes, expecting specific reactions, or becoming emotionally invested in how she responds. This creates pressure even when intentions are good. Respect, however, thrives in spaces where choice is preserved. When a man releases the need to manage the result, he communicates trust in himself and in the moment. Outcome independence is not detachment in a cold or indifferent sense. It is emotional self-sufficiency. A man can be present, engaged, and interested without being attached to validation. Younger women feel this difference immediately. They feel free rather than evaluated. Psychological research on autonomy consistently shows that people are more drawn to those who allow them to choose freely rather than those who subtly push for a particular response. Trying to control outcomes often stems from fear of loss or rejection. When a man acts from this place, his behavior becomes slightly anxious. He checks reactions, adjusts his tone, or seeks reassurance. Younger women read this as emotional instability. Detachment, on the other hand, signals confidence. It says, I enjoy this connection, but I am okay regardless of where it goes. This mindset removes urgency, and urgency is one of the fastest ways to drain attraction. Respect grows when a man allows silence, allows distance, and allows her to come closer at her own pace. Chasing clarity too soon, pushing for labels, or seeking emotional certainty interrupts the natural rhythm of attraction. Younger women often need space to process their feelings. When a man doesn't rush this process, it demonstrates emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is deeply tied to respect, especially in age-dynamic relationships. Another important aspect of detachment is boundaries. A man who respects his own time, energy, and values automatically teaches others how to respect him. When he doesn't rearrange his life impulsively to accommodate every opportunity, it shows self-worth. Younger women are drawn to men who have a life that doesn't bend easily, because it suggests strength and stability. This doesn't mean being rigid or unavailable. It means being selective. Detachment also changes the power dynamic. When a man is not trying to win, persuade, or secure, he becomes less predictable in a positive way. There is no emotional bargaining. This creates intrigue. Younger women feel curious because they are not being chased, yet they feel acknowledged. Curiosity is a powerful emotional driver. It keeps attraction alive without force. Handling rejection or disinterest with grace is one of the strongest signals of maturity. When a man can accept a no without resentment, withdrawal, or emotional punishment, respect increases even if attraction does not continue. This response shows that his identity is not dependent on being chosen. Younger women notice this and often reevaluate a man when they see how he handles disappointment. Detachment also allows authenticity to surface, without the pressure of outcome. A man speaks more honestly and acts more naturally. There is no performance. This authenticity creates a sense of realness that is rare in modern dating. Younger women, surrounded by curated personas and emotional games, find this grounding. They feel they are interacting with a man, not a strategy. In the end, respect is not demanded or negotiated. It is earned through consistency, self-respect, and emotional balance. When a man lets go of control, he stops signaling need. When need disappears, respect fills the space. Attraction that grows from respect is quieter, deeper, and more durable. It is built on freedom rather than pressure, on choice rather than persuasion, and on the calm presence of a man who knows his value without needing to prove it, allowing connection to unfold at its own pace, rooted in mutual curiosity and unforced desire.